Have you ever wondered why there isn't a single living person with natural hair in portraits from the 17th and 18th centuries? We've been lied to our entire lives about the so-called Age of Enlightenment and the Gallant Age. Historians, as if following a script, tell us the same thing. Supposedly, it was just a fashion. Supposedly, people shaved their heads bald to escape lice and dirt. But engage your critical thinking right now. Do you really believe that the aristocracy, possessing the resources to build palaces of incredible complexity and create masterpieces of art, couldn't come up with anything better than wearing a stuffy, heavy tangle of other people's hair or animal wool on their heads? This is a lie we've been fed since childhood. You have been deceived. The official version falls apart at the seams as soon as we begin to analyze the facts, instead of blindly believing textbooks. Look carefully at these portraits. This is not fashion. This is total disguise. Before us is not a whim of the wealthy, but an epidemic. An epidemic of the hairless. Consider why this strange fetish gripped the entire civilized world simultaneously. From London to St. Petersburg, from Paris to the American colonies, thousands, tens of thousands of people suddenly lost their natural hair. We are told that they shaved their heads, but there are documents, memoirs, and medical reports from the time which historians carefully avoid. They describe not voluntary shaving, but hair loss, total alopecia. Aristocrats, the ruling elite, those who should have been an example of health, turned into bald, sick creatures. A wig is not an accessory, it is a prosthesis. It is an attempt to conceal a physical deformity that suddenly afflicted an entire generation. Let's debunk the official tale about lice. We are told that lice plagued people, so they shaved their heads bald and wore wigs, but this is absurd from the point of view of biology and logic. A wig made from horsehair or human hair soaked in tallow and powder is an ideal incubator for parasites. It is warm, damp, and difficult to clean. If hygiene were the goal, people would simply walk around with short haircuts or shaved heads, wiping them with alcohol solutions or vinegar, which was available. But no, they put on themselves pounds of dead organic matter. Why? There can be only one answer. They needed to simulate the presence of hair at all costs. The absence of hair was perceived not as a hygienic norm, but as a stigma, as a sign of illness. Recall the reforms of Peter the Great. We are told that he had the boyars' beards cut off to instill European culture. But what if it was exactly the opposite? What if the Tsar who returned from the Grand Embassy or whoever took his place knew a terrible truth? Beards stopped growing. Irreversible genetic changes began in a huge segment of the population. The beard tax was a brilliant manipulation. It was a way to legalize beardlessness. If you couldn't grow a beard, you paid a fine or declared yourself European. Thus, a physical defect caused by external influence was transformed into an elite characteristic. Those who retained the ability to grow hair were declared backward barbarians, and those who lost it were progressive aristocrats. This is a classic inversion of concepts used by social engineers for centuries. But hair is just the tip of the iceberg. Look at the faces of that era. Pounds of white makeup, lead white, mercury, arsenic. Women and men applied layers of poisonous plaster to themselves. Official history tells us this was the canon of beauty. Paleness was a sign of aristocracy. I, however, tell you, this was a disguise. What were they hiding under the layer of lead? Sores, pigment spots, traces of radiation burns. The skin of 17th and 18th century aristocrats was afflicted by something that could not be shown, and they covered it up even knowing that the cosmetics were killing them. Lead white slowly poisoned the body, but the fear of showing their true face was stronger than the fear of death. We are faced with the fact of a mass affliction of a biological species. If we discard the tales of fashion, a picture of global catastrophe emerges before us. Hair loss, skin lesions, a sharp drop in birth rates in aristocratic families, and the degeneration of dynasties. All of these are symptoms. Symptoms of what? Radiation sickness, chemical poisoning on a planetary scale. We are approaching the most terrifying question. What happened in Earth's atmosphere shortly before the beginning of the so-called Gallant Age? Why did the elite who had access to the best food and protection suffer first? There's a theory that history departments are afraid to discuss, a theory that the atmosphere was poisoned and wigs became the only way to conceal the fact that the ruling class had mutated. They lost their connection to natural health. Hair is an indicator of vitality. It is, if you will, the body's antenna. And suddenly, these antennae fall off everyone in power. A coincidence? I don't think so. Here lies a mathematical impossibility. The probability that the fashion for wearing uncomfortable, expensive, and dirty constructions arose simply by chance is zero. In human history, fashion has always stemmed from utility or the demonstration of status through beauty. Here, however, we see a demonstration of illness wrapped in a beautiful package. Now let's turn to the numbers. The turnover of the wig and powder industry in 18th century France alone exceeded the budgets of some states. Millions of livres were spent to conceal heads. It was an industry of truth concealment. Thousands of barbers worked not on style, but on conspiracy. And where did this hair come from? From peasants. But if peasants retained their hair, did that mean the epidemic was selective? Or were peasants simply disregarded, their hair forcibly shaven to provide the elite with material for disguise? We see a clear class division not by wealth, but by biological characteristic. Some lose their hair and hide it, while others serve as donors of biomaterial. This resembles a livestock farm where there are owners affected by some man-made disaster, and there is a herd that is more resilient to the environment but deprived of rights. Let's delve into medical archives that miraculously survived or were intentionally left to us as a warning. If you open ancient pharmacopoeias from the 18th century, you will be seized by true horror. The primary medicine for all ailments used to treat monarchs and nobles was mercury. We are told that medicine was primitive, that doctors were ignorant. But consider for a second, did the best minds of humanity, capable of calculating planetary orbits, building complex navigation, and designing star fortresses, truly not understand that mercury is a deadly poison? Official history claims that venereal diseases were treated with mercury, and here lies a colossal substitution of concepts. The symptoms attributed to these diseases surprisingly coincide with the symptoms of acute radiation sickness, hair loss, skin ulcers, bone tissue destruction, tooth loss, general exhaustion. What if the epidemic that historians insist upon was a cover for widespread radiological or chemical contamination? Doctors of that time knew more than we think. Mercury is a heavy metal. In certain, albeit barbaric protocols, it could have been used as a means to remove other, more dangerous isotopes or toxins from the body. This was a desperate attempt at chemotherapy. They drank mercury, rubbed it into their skin, and inhaled its vapors, not because they were foolish, but because they were trying to stop the decay of their bodies. The aristocracy was rotting alive. Consider the problem of teeth, which is another puzzle piece that doesn't fit the official picture. Most rulers of that era had almost no teeth left by the age of 30 or 40. Recall the first president of the United States, George Washington. He had a full mouth of dentures. We are told they ate a lot of sugar. Seriously, sugar was an expensive luxury back then, but not so accessible as to cause total jaw necrosis in an entire class of people simultaneously. Rotten teeth and dissolving jaws are classic signs of heavy metal poisoning or radiation exposure, which accumulates in the bones known as radium necrosis. Aristocrats used fans not only for poetry, but to hide the foul breath emanating from decaying gums. It was a world where a smile could betray the terrible secret